What's going on, man?
Hey, Christian.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. All right. Should we dive right in?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I think the goal is Justin, with help from Christian, publishes an artisanal, I like this term, artisanal software product to LinkedIn or something like that. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, we'll do this in 60 minutes or less. Okay, so you had a couple of ideas. I think one was, tell me what the idea was.
Yeah. So the idea is that a lot of people recognize the value of posting on LinkedIn. They recognize it's something they should do for their personal brand or their company. And it basically is helpful, but not core. So it's easy to just push it off and not do it.
Yep.
And they'd like to make that process easy while at the same time having something that sounds authentic, right? That's relevant, doesn't add to the social media noise. And so basically helps them be a good actor on LinkedIn, providing value and connecting with people they want to connect with, but reducing all the friction around actually the creation of those posts and maybe the anxiety that comes along with it.
Makes a lot of sense. So making LinkedIn posting easier. So a good outcome would be essentially first touch to high quality LinkedIn post, basically reducing the friction and the time to this happening.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think the first thing that comes to mind is you want to have a web app that takes your LinkedIn profile.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would want it to actually be like a live interviewer or something, right? I think the ideal actually is you just call, the simplest thing is you call a phone number.
Yeah.
Something knows everything about you and it asks you a bunch of like really good hard hitting questions.
Yeah.
It is likely to elicit like some degree of expertise that you have and it's interesting to you. So you get into like more flow state, you're just yapping. And then it does that enough that at the end of it, that content that you have, it creates a first draft of something that you can publish.
Nice. I like that.
And contra, like there are a lot of tools that do this kind of thing, but I think it's like mostly just slop generators. I like that term of art where it's just, I don't know, people are just publishing like garbage.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to add to it.
Okay. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to prototype this. We're going to use a combination of Vappy and Replit. So we're going to create a new Replit. Might be in Python. Okay. Be a little Python thing. And then what we're going to do too. So what I'm doing right now, this is like my workflow. And I'm a huge fan of like one preview. And I'm using the developer portal because it has fewer limits basically. But what I'm going to say is, so we have Vappy here. And what else are we going to use? So Vappy, I think we can go right into using proxy curl. So proxy curl is this API.
Oh, interesting.
That allows you to enrich LinkedIn. Actually, what I'm wondering is, so the question is, can we actually publish this fast enough? So we'll get back to that. How about this? Let's do this. I'm going to go to, let's see, platform assistants. We're going to create a new assistant. We're going to call it Justin's LinkedIn interviewer. Okay. And what we're going to say here is, so we're going to use the real-time API from OpenAI. It's the same one that does the thing or whatever, right? Let's actually do this. We're going to do this manually and have you publish a post.
Cool. Sounds good.
And then maybe we'll see if we can package it into a web app. It might be a little too ambitious for 50 minutes, but at least you'll publish something. So what I want to have happen here is we're actually going to go to Claude because I like Claude because temporarily switched concise responses. What in the heck is going on with Claude, man? I don't know what's going on. All right, so we're actually going to go to Otter and we're going to take our live transcript, right? And I'm going to paste that here. All right. So I'm going to give you a transcript of a live conversation that I'm having with Justin. I want you to write up some content to fill in the screenshot of the application, which is for configuration of a voice assistant that is going to ask Justin a series of questions about his LinkedIn profile. And you can put a little placeholder because I'm going to copy and paste the content from his LinkedIn profile into the system prompt as well. But I want you to write up a super good, high quality system prompt for the voice assistant that acts as an expert interviewer, that takes into account his background and asks him only one question at a time, a series of concise but extremely punchy, precise questions that are likely to elicit insightful information that can thus be repackaged into high quality, authentic LinkedIn content. So if you could go ahead and create that system prompt, and then with the placeholder at the end. And then, of course, give the voice assistant some free reign to ask those hard-hitting follow-up questions, be curious, probe, and so on and so forth until it's satisfied that it has enough information to pass along to a copywriter to create a draft. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there. Cool. And I'm using Super Whisper to do that, right? And what I'm actually going to do here is we're going to go to, there's a new prompt improvement tool from Anthropic. Okay. So we're going to hit enter. And you can see here, it even, the goal is not to create slop content, which is pretty funny. Okay. And I'm not even going to look at this, but it basically looks pretty good, to be honest. And I would just copy paste the thing in here. And for prompts, interesting. Take 1 to 2 minutes. That's interesting. I don't know totally. Let's see what happens here. Prompt templates must be reusable. Templatized. Why not? This is brand new. I've never done this before, but it's interesting. This like meta prompting thing where you can take prompts do better. Okay. Yeah. Interviewee response. Okay, cool. Whatever. All right. So what we would like to improve it, make it even more likely to elicit really high quality responses from Justin / the interviewee.
Maybe what we could do before you click that, if we can do something around the audience side of things, like something about keeping the audience in mind, like, because it's going to like really dig deep on me, but more so thinking about who am I really trying to resonate with, something like that.
Yeah, doing that from the jump, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that's interesting, like one of the things that I found is when I'm using these tools is to basically try to get as much raw data as possible without an objective oftentimes, and then repackage that afterward. But yeah, if you're really clear on like the audience and what the goal is, it makes sense. So now it's generating the prompt, which makes me really curious what it's creating. It's creating even like a flow chart. This is pretty good. I might have to put my prompts through this thing for my product. And with that, prompt engineering was destroyed. It's gone. Okay. Open in Workbench. That is super interesting. Okay. We have that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to Vappy, where is this thing? So it's here. Okay. So that's in there. I can already tell. I think there might be some issues, but we'll find out soon. So I'm going to say, hey, Justin, got a minute? Okay. And then what I'm going to do is let me get your LinkedIn profile. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, so that service proxy curl kind of pulls not always all of this stuff, but quite a bit. And I don't know. We'll see what happens here. Yeah. So here's the LinkedIn profile. We're going to publish it. Okay. Only OpenAI voices. Oh, okay. That's fine. Let's go fix this. Shimmer. We're going to use Shimmer. Cool.
Cool.
All right. Now, here's what we're going to do. So you're going to share your screen. Okay. And then, yeah, just click on it and you should be able to start talking.
All right, let's see.
That's interesting. Okay. Oh, you know what? Do you have your permissions set up or no? Is it talking?
Well, I think it's listening to us now. I'm gonna refresh because I had to give the microphone permission.
Yeah, click on it. A little confusing, but
Hey, Justin, got a minute?
Yeah, what's going on?
Justin, it's great to have you. To start, could you share? It appears we're having some technical difficulty.
here's what I'll do. Here's what I'm gonna do. Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna put this behind the
Great.
phone. Shh. You can turn it off. Here, you can close it and then get your phone. I'm gonna give you a phone number and you're gonna put it on speakerphone. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I'm making some adjustments. This is, by the way, I would say 65% of actual like applied AI stuff is just you realize there are like 15 little points of friction.
Hey, Justin, got a minute?
Yeah, what's going on?
Thanks for taking the time, Justin. Let's dive right in. Key points from LinkedIn profile, founder of Luminal, focusing on startup growth. Experience in driving pre-seed to Series C growth, expertise in creating repeatable sales motions and unlocking new markets. Potential questions. 1, what inspired you to start and what gap did you see in the market? 2, can you walk us through a specific example where you helped a startup transition from sales to a repeat?
As soon as she said 2, I was like, oh.
Yeah. Now I'm typing stuff in all caps. Now we're back to prompt engineering. Hold on one second. Your responses should only be one question at a time ever, and don't actually output or articulate your thoughts. Only output exactly what you would say to Justin because you're speaking with him live and don't want to waste his time. All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Got a minute?
Yes.
Great, thanks for joining me. So you're currently the founder of Luminal, focusing on early stage B2B startup growth. Can you tell me what inspired you to create Luminal and what your main goals are for the company?
Yeah, so what inspired me to start Luminal was the fact that I had been the first sales hire by 3 different founders, and all 3 of those founders were incredible people, brilliant, but they all had a different approach to building their startups and building out their go-to-market. And as I saw the commonalities and the differences in the way they approached it, as well as the markets themselves, the timing, the stakeholders, the effectiveness of all of it, it really showed me, hey, there's an opportunity to come in early and really help founders navigate their own sales process, getting initial deals done, and really start building to a repeatable sales motion.
Fascinating. Can you walk me through a specific instance where you helped a founder transition from those initial deals to a scalable, repeatable sales motion? What were some key steps you took?
Yeah, one of the first key steps to that process is really understanding who your ideal customer is. Everybody talks about this when it comes to marketing and planning, but oftentimes I feel that they don't get specific or detailed enough. They'll target too broad of a market. And even worse, they're happy with just a surface level understanding of that segment. And so I think that's one of the key things really to focus on is who are you actually trying to reach and why do you think that specific group is interested? And then once you really have confidence in that, then it becomes much easier to figure out what messaging is going to work, on what channels, how can you engage them, and really begin that feedback loop of working with the market to understand if you're building something that ultimately will have product market fit.
Excellent. So diving deeper into understanding the ideal customer, can you share an example of a particular startup where refining the ideal customer profile made a significant difference? What was the outcome?
Yeah, for sure. So at Pecan AI, we were a predictive analytics platform for a bunch of different use cases, including demand forecasting, price optimization, marketing use cases like churn and lifetime value. And what we realized was that going after the data and analytics teams was a real challenge because they didn't really have the clout or resources necessary to bring in a platform like ours and actually get it used by the business. So once we actually started targeting the marketing teams, and if they had marketing analysts embedded, the marketing analysts themselves, we had a lot more success in actually getting adoption of the platform because they could close the loop, so to speak, in terms of actually using the predictions that came out of the platform and seeing the business value.
That's a great pivot. What surprised you most about targeting marketing teams instead of data analytics teams? What did you learn from that shift?
Yeah, I think the interesting part about that shift was oftentimes what a poor grasp of the current data they had. And while we tend to think about businesses making a lot of data-driven decisions, once we opened up the hood and took a look inside, oftentimes we found they were based on intuition, groupthink, or some other mechanisms versus truly doing what we would consider data-driven decisions. And this was surprising because we thought with AI tools like Tableau and their adoption rates that we would have seen more true data-driven decision making.
That's eye-opening. Many assume data-driven decisions are the norm. Looking back, if you could do something differently during that shift, what would it be?
I think I would have focused even more on narrative. We focused a lot on success stories and case studies and kind of the ways that people use the predictions, but I still don't think that we did enough around that. I think we still relied way too much on logic and not enough on narrative and storytelling.
Interesting. Many people overlook the power of storytelling in tech. How do you think other startups can effectively integrate storytelling into their sales and marketing strategies?
I think it all begins with those conversations, right? You have an ICP, you have an ideal customer profile, and then you want to start engaging with them and understanding what's going on in their world. And through that process, you'll begin to hear stories of things they face. And then once you actually work with them and get your product going for them, they'll be able to tell you the stories of how it's impacting what they're doing. And the key is really listening and then bringing that back to the market and saying, hey, here's what this did for this person. And a lot of people are really ready and willing to help. And either we don't care or we don't listen or we just give it lip service and do it, but don't really invest in it.
Absolutely. So looking at the broader industry trends, what key changes do you see emerging in startup growth strategies over the next few years?
I think one big one is going to be the power of the founder narrative and the founder really putting themselves front and center in the company's growth. It humanizes the company and lets people more easily relate to it. And I think we'll just get a lot more feedback to the founder about what's happening in the market. So I think that's one big shift that you're already seeing, even on platforms like TikTok with more founders and even VCs participating. But I think that trend is going to continue to grow.
Great insight. Finally, for other founders looking to scale their startups, what's one piece of advice you would give to help them navigate early stage growth?
I think if I could only give one piece of advice is that nobody cares about your startup more than you do. And that includes the market you're working with, and being able to be really focused on the people across the table from you will make a huge difference in the outcomes that you achieve.
Fantastic advice, Justin. Thanks for sharing your insights today. This has been really valuable.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care, Justin. Talk soon.
Talk soon. Bye. I love it. I love it.
Pretty cool, right?
Really cool. Yeah, I'm impressed.
So here's what we're gonna do next. So this is my process with all this stuff, by the way, is like figure out what it is you want to do, cobble together all this stuff with the third-party tools. And then you can build, then once you have that, all the nuances around that figured out, then you can start coding it in the software and whatever. And if you record the process, like literally taking everything that we've recorded, putting that into different combinations of AI systems, and then like some of the documentation for the different components.
Yeah.
One shot sometimes some of the applicant, not all of it, but like some of the application logic.
Wow.
Yeah. So you just had a 6 minute, 38 second conversation. You had mentioned like at the beginning, it's like overcoming the blank page problem. How easy was this to talk to the system?
It was easy. Yeah, I will say that the one surprise was it would dig in on something that I just hadn't really anticipated. And so there were responses where I purposely limited my response and didn't address everything it asked, but that's okay too. But it just went deeper than expected. And so I was a little caught off guard. Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot I can say about that. I think this medium of having these discursive interactions with these things,
yeah,
product that I'm building, I've had a couple of holy smokes moments where I have a whole bunch of other stuff going on behind the scenes where it ratchets up the punchiness of the questions and everything. And I do think I've written about this a little bit, but everyone's fixated on the hallucination issue. And like, for sure, that's a problem. But I think what's going to be more consequential and probably something that's good to think about a little bit, either as a designer of these things or as a user consumer, is as these things get more information about you, they can be more useful. And as they get smarter, it's the same thing. It's like data and compute, it just scales up. And it can be like destabilizing when you get these like truth to power questions where it's like, I'm going to give you some tough love. And I just think that is going to be very interesting, especially as all this stuff gets more like charismatic as well.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's already charismatic enough in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What I'm going to say here is actually, you know what? So here's a little workflow thing. So I have ChatGPT pulled up. Okay. And I'm O1 preview. And I'm going to say, I'm going to give you the transcript of an interview with Justin. And I want you to take this and write a detailed spec for a really talented copywriter who is going to produce 3 different relatively short form LinkedIn posts for Justin to publish, and publish one now and then schedule 2 based on the content of the conversation. So don't write the post, but write up the specifications for each one of the posts. And the goal here is who's the target audience, Justin?
The founders.
Yeah. Okay. So the goal will be to write it for founders in particular. Just for context as well, I'll give you Justin's LinkedIn profile information, just again for extra context, but derive the specifications from and so what I'm doing here is like basically having O1 think something through before then bringing it to what I think is like a better writer. And I found that just orchestrating, like literally interpret, is knowing which tool to use when.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's like being more like a sommelier than like there are all these like evals and stuff, and it's fine. But this tends to, you just have to do it by feel. All right, so I'm going to do that. We're probably not going to use Replit because we don't have time, but we'll get you to publish something by the end of this. So we go to Justin. Yeah. And there are different things you can do with this. Like I found, so it'll write the spec and then we'll turn that into some posts. You can also have it ask you like follow-up questions. If you want to keep expanding it, okay, what else would you ask Justin? All that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it wrote the spec. Normally I'd read over it, but I'm just going to skip ahead and do this. And I'm going to give it that. All right, I'm going to give you some raw data from a transcript of conversation that Justin had with an interviewer towards the end of creating material that can be repackaged into LinkedIn posts. And then I'm going to give you also, and his profile for context. And then I'm also going to give you a detailed specification for what to write for each post. You're an incredible writer. I know you can write stuff that's going to be great for him. So if you could take a crack at this, and we'll go post by post. Only start with the first one. He'll give you feedback, and then we'll move on to the second one and the third one. That would be great. Unfortunately, it's probably going to literally interpret this right now, but that's fine. Oh, it worked. All right. And then what I'll do too is I'll copy this over to a new doc. So, okay. We're using Opus. I think Opus just is it's a good writer. I'm going to share this with you. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. Open up the Google Doc.
Yep, I'm in it.
I'm going to paste this here. I want you to read that to nuts once, and then go back to the top. And then I want you to articulate your raw, unfiltered feedback. So whatever pops in your head.
Okay, sounds good. Nice. Do you want me just to verbalize it? Or do you want me to? Yeah. The feedback here is that I really like it, but it just feels very LLM-y. It just feels like something that I didn't write, and that was just like generic copy. I think the overall content is good. I think that there's nothing here that brings out to me as, oh, that's off the mark, or that's actually not useful, or anything like that. One of my initial reactions that I'm going back on is, I'm like, oh, this is so basic. Like, this is just, really entry level stuff. But I have to remember the audience, that to them, hearing this message is important. So that curse of knowledge issue where I might dislike some of it, but I realize it's just because I am so familiar with it. I think the end, once again, and this is more of a personal taste thing, is I don't want to sound like there's a part of me that doesn't want to sound like a LinkedIn guru, if that makes sense. And a little bit of that last section makes me feel like I'm doing some of that, which I also recognize that that's literally what I'm doing. So there's some dissonance there, but there's just something about wanting to feel like very, I don't know, authentic. But yeah, other than that, I really like it.
Is there anything really precise in particular that jumps out to you, either in a good way or bad way?
I think the four questions are actually more precise than I expected in the middle.
That's in a good way.
In a good way, yeah. The focus on decision making and championing isn't often discussed when it comes to ICP, but it's very interesting that it's pulled through here.
So this gives you a preview to where all this stuff is going, like as it converges, is we're going to be in a state where like you're literally just having these crazy verbal interactions. Okay. I'm just going to hit enter. See what happens.
Did you edit it to say LLME?
No, it caught that. Wild, right?
That is wild. I did not expect it to catch that.
Okay, let's do the same thing one more time.
Yeah, I really like this. Even the sort of last two sentences, this feels better, feels more authentic. I might tweak a word or two because it's always happy, love to hear your story, maybe modulate that a little bit to sound a little more, I don't know, conservative, a little less bubbly. But honestly, other than that, I'm very happy with the text here. And I'm not even saying that's a necessarily a good idea that we make it less bubbly. It's just, yeah.
It's fine. Let's do one more round, see how it does.
Cool.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, here's what's fun. So let's keep going. So I want you to publish this, and I got to hop at 11, like a hard stop, soft stop about 5 minutes before. So we got about 10 minutes left.
Yep.
Pull this back up, and I'm going to say, all right, great. So I'm going to give you the draft of the first post that was created by the copywriter. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a founder who is reading it, and I want you to I want you to come up with a probability from 0 to 100% that if you were a founder reading this post, that you would like it. from 0 to 100%. %90 chance. Great. What would have to be true to get you to 95%? These are pretty good.
Yeah, they are.
This one seems like lowest hanging fruit to me. Can you put something quantified in there?
Not, it would just be made up.
Okay, no worries. Okay, this is pretty good too. Start with a compelling hook. Ever wonder why your amazing product isn't getting the traction it deserves?
That's good.
Boom. All right.
Seriously.
Okay, cool. All right, so what you're going to do now is you're going to share your screen and you're going to hit publish.
Sweet. Let's do it.
I'm having a direct post. Can you share your screen just for the...
Yep. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna. That's what's in there.
And of course, we didn't create a piece of software. I really think actually this whole workflow, like you can definitely automate. I think a lot of this to a decent extent.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm actually really curious to see what I can do around this, because this would be a really nice day in, day out. Like this just would get rid of a lot of frustration. Okay, let's see.
I would get rid of Game Changer. That's one of those like LLM smell.
Let's see. Now I'm trying to think about whether or not Pecan AI will.
You could also just say like at a whatever.
Yeah, I can. Let's see.
It's up to you, of course, but
The funny part is, I'm pretty sure they're still targeting data analytics team. That's why I'm pausing, because they didn't want to double down on it, even though it was working better, which is just one of many very illogical things that occurred during my time there. So that's what's making me pause. And let's just post this and then see this being an issue. Sweet.
boom. All right, cool.
Touchdown. All right, there we go.
I'm gonna post the next 2 drafts just in case you want to use them. All right. Yeah, this is fun, man.
Yeah, like I think this would actually do well as a little web app.
Cool. I want to do more stuff like this where it's like you're making things like.
Yeah, same. This was. I'm really glad we did it. It definitely opened my eyes to a couple of things that I hadn't realized yet. So
Interesting. Like what?
I really hadn't, beyond demos, I really hadn't interacted with a voice agent, especially not one that was actually like not just saying, hey, I need answers to these questions so I can fill out my form, but more so trying to actually push me. That was an interesting one. And then I've done like meta prompting before, but I thought the way that you asked it to score it and then asked it what would make it better, I hadn't thought about doing it recursively.
Yeah.
Like, I know you can, but I forget that you can keep doing it recursively, and I wanted to. And then too, like you also fed the output, like the refined output, and now it's going to leverage that to create the second 2 posts. Is that what you pulled in the? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious to give a quick thumbs up, thumbs down if you look at those, like just what you're like, is it salvageable? Is it usable?
Yeah, the second one looks good. Yeah.
Cool.
Totally cool.
All right. 55 minutes spent.
It's so funny. I've already got 4 likes on it.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. See, it's good. See,
Yeah.
this is like when I try to explain to people, there is a way of doing this, right? use AI to go 0 to 1 on something. You pull in all these different things and you just do it. You get somebody else who knows what good looks like and all that. And then step 2, build artisanal software.
Dude, I love it.
And
I
just
freaking love it. Oh,
Yeah.
that's the really funny part now is it's okay, push publish and now we'll see what happens. And oh yeah, like it's just already started working.
amazing.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh,
Good.
that's so cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I can see this kind of interaction just being a super powerful because people aren't really doing this, at least on my feeds.
Yeah.
All right, I know you got the 11 o'clock, but yeah, next week, man, it's gonna be fun.
Cool. All right. This was a lot of fun. I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See you, Christian.
Bye.